Aloha, my name is Shelby Morrison, and I am the Programs and Communications Coordinator at Ikahi Mediation Center. Welcome to our Finding Solutions Growing Peace Brown Bag Lunch Series. Ikahi is a nonprofit community mediation center serving East Hawaii. We were founded in 1983 as a program of the island of Hawaii's YMCA, and in 2006 became our own independent nonprofit. We empower people to come together, to talk and to listen, to explore options, and to find their own best solutions. To achieve this mission, we offer mediation, facilitation, and trainings like this one to strengthen the ability of diverse individuals and groups to resolve interpersonal conflicts and community issues. Our Brown Bag Lunch series is held every third Thursday at 12 noon right here on Zoom. You need to register for each of those through Eventbrite to receive the link. Our next brown bag will be on, putting the link there in the chat for you, but our next brown bag talk will be on February 20th, and our speaker will be Joe Hittner on the topic, the Aloha Spirit and Difficult Conversations. So I put that in the chat. Feel free to register after the talk today. A little side note, our basic mediation training starts on Friday, February 28th, 2025. So this 4-day interactive training is perfect for anyone who wants to communicate more effectively, personally and professionally, become a better negotiator and problem solver, and increase your value in the workplace. So whether you want to enhance your communication skills or become a volunteer mediator at Ikahi, this training gives you the tools you need to start resolving conflicts in peaceful, lasting ways. So I'll go ahead and I'll also add that link to the chat. Feel free to review that if that sounds like something you might be interested in. At the end of today's talk, we'll ask you to fill out a short online survey, which helps with our grant funding for this free series. When I put their survey link in the chat, please take a moment to give us your thoughts. I'll also send out an email later with the slides and the survey link as well. So without further ado, let me introduce our topic and speaker. Our topic is Show Up Powerfully, What I Bring to the World, and our speaker is Miss Sylvia Dolena. Sylvia worked for Hewlett-Packard for 18 years, including as a global programs and operations manager and as a strategic change project manager. She has worked as an external business consultant with HP and other high-tech and retail companies like AMD and Best Buy. Recently, Dolena was a project manager for one of Fortune 100 companies' new leadership certification programs. She delivers workshops and leadership development programs in Hawaii and nationally. She holds an MBA in organizational effectiveness from the University of Southern California and an MS in strategic management of technology organizations from Stanford and IESE, the European School of Business in Barcelona. All right, Sylvia, take it away.
Thank you and welcome everyone. So show up powerfully. What does that really mean? So just to give you the context of what this talk is about, is showing up powerfully means that for every situation, every important situation you encounter, you will be able to show up, speak up, and communicate well. Because so many times when we're in a situation that is unfamiliar to us or uncomfortable for us, many times we'll freeze, we won't say the right thing. And how many times have you said to yourself, oh, I wish I had thought of that. I wish I had said that. So why doesn't that happen? So we're going to go through that. And the context for this tool that I'm going to be sharing with you towards the end of the talk is that when I worked for a major corporation, there was a time period in that where everyone, I mean, all the big companies were outsourcing, meaning they were laying people off and sending all the jobs either to China or to Malaysia or to some other Asian countries. And a lot of people were losing their jobs in the US. So what I was hired to do, along with a psychologist, we put together this tool to help people get through this time period, to look at what they bring to the world, what talents do they have, how can they move forward with what it is they really want to do, especially for our older employees, and when I say older, I just mean older than the young techies that were coming in, people like in their 50s and getting close to retirement age and weren't quite ready to not have an income. It was challenging for them to have to go out and to look for another job. So we put the program together to support people, coach them, consult with them. But part of that was education on looking at the things that may be obstacles to them getting other jobs, and also to look at what they bring to the table, what they bring to the world that they can use, transferable skills, all of that, so that then they can step into a place of confidence and go out and do what they needed to do, whatever that is. It doesn't mean just getting a job, but whatever it is, if you have a proposal, if you're making a sale, if you have to encounter a difficult situation, what is it that you can do to prepare for that and to also bring your very best to the table each and every time? So that's the context for the talk. And why is this important? Because if you are confident, you step into that confidence, it builds trust, because you are then capable, you're confident, you're there, you're present. And confidence equals trust equals influence. Whatever influence you need to do, whether it's a cause, whether it's getting a job, whether it's proposing an idea. So with that, we'll get started. So who are you and who are you not? So who we are, we're biological human beings, of course, energetic beings. We're intelligent, sentient consciousness, and we're multidimensional. So we have a lot of energy, a lot of assets, being human, having energy around us. But who we are not is we are not our conditioning. We're not our behaviors. We're not labels, how people label us. We're not our habits, and we're not judgments. So it's really up to us to define who we are in our own terms, not someone else's terms. We get a lot of conditioning. So I put some of the conditioning statements on there on the slide, because we hear them all the time. At least I did when I was growing up. And so there's some for girls, for females, and then some for males, because many times women and girls are judged by how they look and how sweet they are and how cute they are and all of that. And Deborah Tannen wrote a book on some research that she did of how girls are conditioned as opposed to how boys are conditioned at school. So being able to identify our conditioning is going to be very helpful, because when we identify them, we can throw them out. If it's not serving us, we can throw them out. And like for girls, it's about, labeling girls as cute, pretty, fat, whatever. And for boys, it's, boys don't cry, make us proud. It's about performance. It's about get a job. It's about, can you do this? Can you do that? So we need to really be able to look at that, look at the messages that we've received throughout our lives and conditioned us into someone who we're really not. So I call this my conditioning pie. So we're conditioned in many, many ways. And this pie chart shows the conditioning and the ratio of conditioning for each one of these. So if you look at the bottom of the wheel, you'll see school, peers, education level, and then in the green pie slice, you see family, and then in the blue on the right, you see society, community, and media. So those are the most influential factors in conditioning and, labeling our identity, all of that. All of the others on the top part of the pie chart really are influential to varying degrees. What generation were you in? What's your religion? That kind of thing. So sometime after the talk and within a week, because research shows that if you review notes, if you review what you've been exposed to and what you've learned within a week, your retention is much, much better. And you will get copies of these slides as after the talk is done. And there's a little question here in the lower left that says, what is your conditioning? Look at this, and also the next two slides are the explanations of that, is to really look at what your conditioning is, identify them for yourselves, and then see what you need to do with that. So here they are. Here's the list, the explanation of them. This is for you to look at and to review. I'm just going to pick out a couple of them. Generation, for example. So I'm in the boomer generation, and then we hear that we have the Gen Xers and the millennials, and it goes on and on and on. And there was, I guess it was about a year ago, 2 years ago, that there was this meme going around saying, okay, boomer, like whenever someone 50 years or older would say something, the younger generation would go like, okay, boomer, like, it's not important. So that's how we get labeled for different things. That's the generational one. Another one that I wanted to point out is the media. I mean, that is huge, especially for the younger people, because it's conditioning them to think that they need to be a certain way, look a certain way, think a certain way. And there is a lot of, as you probably have seen in this past couple of years, there's a lot of fear mongering in the media. And there's a lot of fake news in the media. And if people really listen to that and take that in, it could condition you, it could condition your thoughts, it could condition your behaviors. And this other slide is more of that, more of the conditioning message sources for you to look through and see if any of these apply to you and how they apply to you. There's three universal messages that most people believe about themselves or about their condition or environment, and scarcity is one. That is very prevalent, and especially with the economy and how it's going now, it's whatever it is that you want, there isn't enough to go around. Like my father used to say, money doesn't grow on trees. So it was scarcity mentality. The next one is inadequacy and self-worth. You're not good enough. No matter what it is you want, no matter what it is you want to do, no matter who you are, you're just not good enough for what you really want, for what your dream is. And of course, none of these are true, but we're conditioned to think that. And the third one is trust or faith, lack of, like, this won't ever happen for me, or I don't think I'll ever get there, or maybe somebody else will, but I won't, that kind of thing. So these are things that we are conditioned with, and the majority of the population believe one of these three things about themselves and about their condition. So another thing that you can do after the talk and within 1 week is, do you have any of the above messages in your identity? And jot them down and jot a few examples for yourself, because the more you identify what it is that is conditioning you and maybe causing your thinking to be a certain way or your behaviors to be a certain way, the better it is that then you can say, nope, no more, I'm getting rid of that one. So that was the conditioning part. So there's two sets of obstacles that will prevent us from showing up powerfully. One is our conditioning, and the conditioning, how it stops us is because we start believing that conditioning, and then we think we can't do something, or we can't say something, or it's not politically correct, or whatever that is. So it stops us in some way, subconsciously. It may not be something conscious, but it does stop us subconsciously or prevents us from fully showing up. The other thing that helps, that is an obstacle to us showing up powerfully, are fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs. And these are obstacles to our success and influence and in how we show up. So we're just going to explore that a little bit. Okay, so fear is a biological response to a perceived threat. And, long time ago, ancient times, the threat was physical and it was real. And today's threat is typically social or emotional and usually with the same kind of reaction. And as I see more and more today in the media and social media, I see that a lot of bullying is going on. So the social or emotional threats come through social media a lot. Like Facebook is one of them, where people are being bullied and judged and commented about. And people have an emotional reaction to that. The fear stimuli tells the amygdala, and the amygdala is the reptilian brain, the brainstem, to release adrenaline for the sole purpose to give us energy to react quickly. The fight, flight, freeze, or appease response. But actually, it's not a response, it's a reaction. So subconsciously, we get into a state of fear and it causes adrenaline reaction, and then it causes, for us to react in a certain way. Now, how do we prevent that and control that? Is by really understanding it. So the responses that we get from fear is the fight. Okay, can I fight this? Can I beat this? Or flight. Let me run away. Flee. I'll go away. Freeze. I'll just stand here and do nothing, and maybe they'll ignore me or they won't even see me. Or appease. Yes, I will do what you need me to do. And secretly and inside we're saying, no, I don't want to do this. But we're going to appease in order so that we can feel safe. So those are the responses to fear. Now, I just want to go back. I'm going to go back for a moment and just say the responses to fear is that because it's the fear response is to a perceived threat and it affects the amygdala. So how do we stop that? When we stop to think and take a breath and say, what is really going on here? Or it doesn't matter what question you ask yourself. When you ask yourself a question, you disengage the amygdala and you go to the frontal cortex part of the brain, which is the thinking part of the brain, not the reacting part of the brain. So you disengage the reacting part of the brain, ask yourself a question, take a deep breath, and it will get you out of that response. It works every time, because then once you take a deep breath, then you can think, and then you can say, okay, what is really going on here? Okay, I reacted to that, but now I'm going to take a deep breath and respond appropriately rather than react. Okay, so another obstacle are doubts, the feelings of uncertainty, lack of conviction, lack of confidence. And many times our doubts will stop us from doing things that we really want to do. And limiting beliefs are beliefs, something that you hold as true and keeps you from being able to renew yourself or grow or get beyond that. So you can see that little garbage can. Actually, it's a big garbage can on the side. Fear, doubts, and limiting beliefs. Let's throw them away. And let's just look at them a little bit deeper just so we understand. Okay, our doubts, that's the voice of the inner critic. Do you ever have this voice inside of yourself that says, no, maybe you shouldn't do that, or no, that's a little bit risky, or, what if you do it and you fail or fall flat on your face? Okay, that's your doubter telling you not to do something. It causes confusion, you become unclear, you have inner conflict of whether you should or you shouldn't. So the number one way we sabotage our dreams, our vision, our forward progress is by projecting our doubts and fears into our dreams. And we don't want to do that. We create the worst possible scenarios and believe them, like, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? The signs of the doubter are procrastination. Okay, well, maybe I'll do it later. Or I'm confused about this. I shouldn't make a decision right now. Or no, I better not. I need to be in my safe comfort zone. Sometimes the doubter will be very sneaky and it will come out as a protector, as an obligation, and also as the inner critic. But when it comes out as the protector, as an obligation, it will sound kind of like, okay, you shouldn't do this because that's too risky, it's too dangerous, and you need to keep yourself safe. Now, I'm not saying anyone should go out and take a risk. However, if something comes up that you really feel you need to do and you have doubts, look at it as a calculated risk. Determine the pros and cons and look at it logically rather than as a reaction to some kind of fear or some kind of doubt. So you and only you can change your lifetime of conditioning and your lifetime of fears, doubts, limiting beliefs. And the first step is to identify now what you believe and why. So we're going to take a look at limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs hold you back from making different choices in your life. Because many times it says, oh, you can't, or you won't, or you're not good enough, or whatever. It keeps you from seeing different opportunities presented to you each day. Because if you have a limiting belief about yourself or about something, your brain will filter out those opportunities and will only see what you have the context to see. And if it's within that limiting belief, it resonates and you believe it more. So it's difficult to break out of that, but there's a way I'm going to show you. Okay, and it'll prevent you from seeing your own gifts or accepting the gifts offered to you because you won't see them in that way. The limiting beliefs will filter ideas, opportunities, new information that's coming to you. And it will keep you stuck focusing on the negative aspects of your circumstances. So let's examine your beliefs. A belief is something that you hold as true. They're never neutral. You either believe it or you don't believe it. Setbacks or disappointments can leave a negative residue if we hang on to the negative beliefs because there's a payoff. I'm going to give you a little example of that, of a payoff. Okay. So there's this person that I know. She was a client and she was hanging on to the negative beliefs of herself, of lots of things she couldn't do. She had health issues and she said, I'll never get out of this. I'll never get better. I won't do this and I won't do that. And so I was saying, well, what if you did? How would your life change? And as she was explaining to me how her life would change if she could do all of these things, the payoff showed up. And what showed up was in having health issues and having these negative beliefs about herself, she was getting a lot of attention from her family. And they would always go in and check on her and see how she was. If she got better, if she got healthy, if she started doing things on her own, they wouldn't be paying as much attention to her. Now, she didn't even realize that hanging on to this negative belief and not allowing herself to get better, that there was the payoff of the attention that she was seeking. Now, when she noticed that, she did start putting things in place and did start getting better. And she had a new payoff. The new payoff was she was invited out more. So she was still able to have the interaction she was having, but it was in a different context. She made more friends. She went out to social gatherings, all of that. And so there was a payoff. It was a little bit different, but it was still a payoff of the attention and the more or less relationship, equal relationship, rather than getting attention for herself. That was the payoff for her. So that's just an example of how we have hidden payoffs. So be looking for that. The voice of the doubter reinforces the negative belief, and the limiting belief will stop you. It'll stop you in your tracks many times because you can't get beyond that belief. And it'll be disguised. Sometimes it'll show up subtly, or sometimes it'll show up loudly. Many times these limiting beliefs reside in our subconscious, but they show up in our actions and our behaviors. So beliefs can be changed, and what you believe is a choice. So if you're able to identify the limiting belief, consider the source and the context of the belief. Then you can change the belief, create a new belief that moves you forward. And then you can practice and embody the new belief, and then it will become solid. Now, I'm going to just give you an example. For my childhood, the limiting belief I had growing up was that I can't do a lot physical. I was terrible at girls' sports, volleyball and tennis and stuff like that. And so I started examining why I was believing that, because I was physically able. I didn't have any physical ailments, health issues, handicaps, or anything like that. So why did I believe that? So I remembered back when I was about 5 years old, and my grandparents had a farm, and we used to go out and spend the summer in the farm, us, the grandchildren. And my father was out there one time, and my grandfather had little bull calves, and all of my boy cousins were riding the bull calves. And, they'd get knocked off, and, it was fun kind of thing. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to ride the little bull calves and have fun and get bounced around and everything. And my dad said, no, you can't do that. And I said, why can't I do? You're a girl, and girls can't do those kinds of things. No, you can't. So I grew up believing that anything that I wanted to do or try, because he stopped me from doing a lot of things, a lot of physical things. And so I grew up believing I couldn't do a lot of things. So when I looked back on it, I thought, okay, the reason why he was telling me I couldn't do a lot of those things was because he didn't want me to get hurt. He didn't want me to be injured. It wasn't that I couldn't, that he wouldn't allow it, or that I wasn't physically able to do it. It was that he just didn't want me to be hurt. And if I did those things, like if he wasn't around, he would feel really bad. So in understanding that, then I thought, okay, then that was the reason why he was doing it. It wasn't that I really couldn't do it. So I created a new belief for myself that anything I really want to do, whether it's physical or sports or even dancing, that I could do it. And so I wrote it down, and then I practiced doing all of that. I joined a tennis team to learn tennis. I learned, I took dance lessons. So that's what I'm saying. You practice and you embody the new belief by doing the things you thought you couldn't do before. Okay. So this is something for you to think about. Success versus failure, and it's all in your perception. When something does not go well, do you relive it in your mind over and over again? Do you consider your mistakes as failures or lessons? Do you relive your successes in your mind over and over again? And if you don't, why not? That reinforces it. And how do you consider your success? As typical, as hard work, as yeah, of course, or as luck? Luck would have it. So just something for you to think about. And this is a quote from Tom Peters. Tom Peters wrote a lot of management and leadership books, and he always says, fail forward faster. So the faster you fail, the more you learn, you pick yourself up, and you keep moving forward. And Ray Strada said that the only competitive advantage is how fast we can learn and adjust. So it's not about failing, actually, even though Tom Peters says fail forward faster. He wanted it all to be F's as the beginning letter. It's not about failing, it's about learning and picking yourself up and taking that learning and doing something with it. Okay, so once you handle your conditioning, your fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs, you can focus on what you really want. And what is your dream? What is your goal? What is your vision for yourself? So we're going to talk about that for a moment, and then we're going to look at what you bring to the world. And it's an acronym stack, and I'll go through that. And that is what you bring to the world, and what you can pull together for every situation is how you show up powerfully. And anything that you can do for yourself after you go through this material and take notes, look at it as your super self-development plan. So just to define what I mean by a dream, it's your vision of the future, of the aspirations, desires, goals, the hopes, what you want for yourself and those around you, what you want for yourself and your future. You know, how you'll be successful, how you will have good relationships and associates, all of that. What is your ideal state? The picture perfect of what you want for you and your future. And seriously, if you can dream it, you can do it. Walt Disney said that, and it's true. Because if you can dream it and you work at it, you get rid of all of the obstacles that would stop you, you can do it. And everyone's dream is meant to be fulfilled, or you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have that in your consciousness, that you want it, that you desire it, that this is your cause, this is your meaning, this is your purpose. So you're meant to fulfill it. And you have everything you need right now to do it. So 80% of success in life is just showing up, because many times so many people don't show up due to their conditioning, their fears, their doubts, their limiting beliefs. But you can show up, and you will show up. And that's 80% of the success in life is just showing up, just being there, taking it on. So what does it mean to show up powerfully? For every situation you encounter, you could be confident and present and respond in the most effective way. Would you really love that? I would. So you could quickly bring all of the elements within you together to handle any situation. And as I said in the beginning, when I was setting up the context for the talk, is haven't you said many times, I wish I had thought of that, or I wish I had said that. You already have all the skills, capabilities, intelligence, experiences, capacities, mindsets to handle any situation you encounter. But what is sometimes missing for many of us is, how do we bring that all together as a system, as a cohesive system, for accessing all of what we need in that moment, because every moment is different. So we don't have a way to bring that together, a systematic method, and I'm going to show you that way of you can do it, you can practice it, and you can set things up for yourself so that when you encounter a situation, you will show up with confidence and with everything you need in order to make that situation a success for you. So what we're going to be doing is, to show up powerfully, is we're going to identify and inventory your stack. And your stack are your skills, talents, abilities, competencies, and knowledge as your elements of experience. And I'll show you a method to combine and apply your stack to typical and emergent situations. And you will develop the ability to listen deeply to evaluate each situation accurately. So you'll need to practice listening skills. develop ability to create in the moment the appropriate mindset for the situation and step into it. And I'll define what all of these mean in just a moment. And expand your mindsets beyond your experience. And then you can identify and leverage your winning edge formula. Now, I want to make this comment because I've heard this many times before that, and it's the quote under the picture, it's, I thought I was being inauthentic to show up differently each time, but I was really being ineffective, meaning that person was being effective by showing up the same thing each and every time, but she thought that was being authentic to show up that way. Now, we can show up differently for every different situation we encounter, and it's not being inauthentic. It's using all of our skills, talents, and capabilities to the fullest. Now, showing up powerfully means self-confident. That is the primary trait. And it's a trait that successful people often have. Most great leaders are very self-confident. And they are able to, with their self-confidence, is to encourage others to follow and to do what it takes to achieve any goal, any cause, any situation that they're approaching. But in order to be successful in anything you do, you first have to believe that you are capable. And having this self-confidence allows you to go after what you want and see your efforts through without giving up. Too many people give up before the finish line because it becomes too difficult. So having that self-confidence, having that persistence to keep going no matter what, will show you great successes when you get through that. So here is one little tool that you can use, and that is your personal best. Have a way to return to a resourceful state whenever you want to. So when you're in a state that's unresourceful, you're agitated or you're in fear or whatever, think of a time when you were at your very best. And when you go into that, really imagine it. Take a breath and close your eyes and imagine it. And be there now, seeing, hearing, and feeling what was going on around you when you were at your personal best. Notice what's going on. Where's your attention? How would you describe your state of being? What's important about this when you were at your personal best? And who are you being when you're at your personal best? And what else do you notice going on around you? And when you're thinking about that time, that situation, that event, when you were your personal best, then you want to amp up those feelings. And you want to then recall, set a trigger, set an icon, set a label on it, personal best, whatever that event was, and set a keyword or image in your mind for instant recall. Because then when you're in a state of unresourcefulness, then you can say, oh yes, I remember my personal best when I was, whatever that trigger is, remember that, get back to that resourceful state, and then address the situation that you're in. Okay, so here's the stack. And this is what we're going to use for the little template that I'm going to show you. Okay, skills. This is learned expertise, mastery of doing specific tasks, no matter how complex or simple. So that's your skill. Talent. Talent is the expertise, your innate talents that you were born with. You do this automatically. People come to you for this. This is your gift to the world. And too many times we don't recognize our talents, or we get judged for our talents, or whatever that is. And so just one quick little side thing here is I'm very good at analysis. And when I go in to an organization, I would automatically see what things were causing problems there, what things were going on. And I would just point it out to people. And they hated that. And my mentor said, okay, people really don't like their mistakes pointed out to them. So then I decided to use that talent to become a consultant, and they paid me to do it. But I was born with that. I don't know how I got that, but yeah, I did it and I used it, and I should have been a little bit more conscious of what I was doing with it. And then I learned how to do it. Okay, appropriately. So abilities are things you know how to do, such as drive a car, cook a meal, climb a tree. And competencies is the physical or mental power to do something requiring many skills. So if you have a competency in engaging an audience, martial arts, communications, teaching. So let's just take communications. It takes good communications as a competency that takes listening, deep listening. It takes also speaking. It takes also interpreting, and it will take also reading body language. So all of those things fall into the competency of communications. And we have this to varying degrees in different areas. So knowledge is learned information that forms a connected base in specific areas. So like if you have knowledge of astronomy or computer applications or whatever that is, you have knowledge in specific areas and you have knowledge in general areas too. So showing up powerfully also means mindset. So mindset is the set of filters or conditioning you bring when you show up, a set of assumptions, perceptions, methods, or notions. And some of your limiting beliefs could affect your mindset. So you want to be aware of that. And then your identity. It's how you show up in a specific role or identity for a situation. And that means how you are physically, mentally, energetically, emotionally, your attitude, your presence. So that is the mindset and identity part of the mind stack. And for example, so if you're speaking to your child or any child, you would have a parent identity with the appropriate characteristics of a parent, like physically relaxed body, mentally friendly, energetically, you would be gentle and flowing, emotionally, you would be compassionate and heartful, and present in the moment. And with children, I don't know how you cannot be present in the moment because they demand that, but your mindset could be all children are wonderful beings as opposed to all children are brats or whatever. So when you have that mindset, it shows in what you're dealing with and what you're doing, and it shows in your behaviors and how you address the situation. Okay, so here's an exercise you can do within the week if you want to practice this, is brainstorm a list of situations where you need to respond effectively and powerfully. And one of mine is meeting with a boss that I had, or speaking in front of an audience, or presenting a proposal. So you could create your mind stack for any situation and have access by calling in the appropriate identity or situation when you go into it. So I will give you an example, my own example. I had a boss who was a bully, and he was intimidating, confrontational, and demanding. And he would just randomly call different people in his organization, totally unprepared, saying, I need you in my office right now. And believe me, no matter what you were doing, you would drop everything and go into the office because that's how he was. So well, actually, it wasn't when, it was before I got called into his office again. I went through this and I said, okay, what is my mindset when he calls me into his office again? My mindset was no matter what, this will be a good meeting. What was my identity? Since he was a bully, I was going to be the warrior woman. What are my skills that I need when I meet with him? Organizing facts, I need to be observant and factual, because he would come in and quiz everybody on, well, what are the stats on this? Or what are the stats on that? And all of that just to try to throw people off balance. So I knew I had to be very organized, very observant, very factual. What talent did I need to bring into this meeting? Is reading the body language and mirroring the body language. So if he would speak to me and he would lean across his table like this, then I would also lean across the table and look at him, make eye contact with him. So what were my abilities? My ability that I brought to the table was to stay calm, cool, unemotional, and confident. Competencies: listening, inquiring, responsiveness, clear, direct communication, and then knowledge, the current business status, because that's all what he demanded each and every time by asking all kinds of questions. So the next time he called me into his office, I was prepared because I had gone through this. And also the current business situation, I would bring in my laptop and I would bring in a file box with anything and everything that he probably wanted to know about the business, that he would ask me, and I would pull out a file, or I would go to my laptop and pull out the information. So I was prepared. And guess what? He called me into the office less and less, and that was a good thing. So I'm going to bypass this example because you have it there. You'll have it in your handouts and you can read and look through it. I want to go to the template here because I put this together for you to practice with. So if you have any situation, whether you're making a proposal, whether you're having a meeting, an important meeting that you need to attend, or whatever is going on, practice with known situations that you have, that you will be encountering, and determine what mindset do you need to go into that situation? What identity, what role do you bring to the table? What are your skills, talents, abilities, competencies, and knowledge that you need for that particular situation? Give it a label, like the one that I had was meeting with the bully. So then when I am meeting with other bullies, I can call all of that back in and show up powerfully and appropriately and with confidence. So this is practice for you to determine the different situations you may encounter and prepare in advance. And then what will start happening is the more you practice this, the more you're able to, even in unknown situations, you will be able to.
Almost super dry. So you put in moisturizer like that. Yeah.
Sorry, you're
Jason, please mute
gotta mute.
yourself.
Okay, so this is what I call your winning edge formula. So for a known situation, this is what I do. I take a deep breath. I call in my mindset and identity for this situation, whatever the situation is. It's a known one. It's repetitive, whether it's having a meeting or making a proposal, meeting a customer for the very first time. So I call in my mindset and identity for those situations. And then I feel the energy of that. I scan the environment. I notice the body language. And then I align my appropriate stack, which are the skills, talents, abilities, competencies, and knowledge. It's all in that little template, and you can list it for yourself. And then I proceed with confidence. But if it's an unknown situation, I do pretty much the same thing with just one slight little twist, is I take a deep breath and feel the energy and scan the environment and notice the body language first. I notice all of those things first. Then I call in my mindset and identity for this particular situation because I've already scoped out the situation. And as you do this more and more, you'll become better and better at it. You'll pick up on little subtleties. You'll pick up on things that you were not aware of before. Then you call in your mindset and identity, and you'll align your appropriate stack. Then you can proceed with confidence. So that's what I call the winning edge formula. Now, with all of that, who are you becoming? The very best you. You have all of this already inside of you. It's just about having a mechanism to pull it together and be confident in that. You know all of this already. You have this available to you. You just need to be able to have a method or a mechanism for accessing it each and every time that you encounter an important situation. So here's a little poem that I really love. It's called Faith. When we walk to the edge of all the light we have and take that step into the darkness of the unknown. We must believe that one of two things will happen. There will be something solid for us to stand on, or we will be taught how to fly. And I am really hoping that what we discussed today will be something for you to stand solidly on to help you through whatever situation you're encountering and show up confidently and powerfully. So I am open for taking questions until the time is up. So if anyone has any questions or any comments, please feel free.
If you'd like to put your question into the chat box and we can ask it, that's fine as well. You may raise your hand. You may simply unmute yourself if you have a question for Sylvia. I'll ask you, Sylvia. So I think all of this stuff is just so wonderful, but it's always much easier to read about how you would want to be in that situation.
Right.
So I'm wondering if someone has all of these tools ready and they have their me stack or their my stack, and what would you recommend is the best tip to get someone from knowing something up here to having that motivation to do the practices and embodying that, because that takes time and they have to almost be brave every time they're going against those ingrained beliefs. So what do you suggest? Is there like a just do it kind of mentality that you just have to have even though it's uncomfortable, or what would you suggest?
Okay, this is my deep belief because I've seen it. I also do a lot of coaching, and I coached many executives, and because they're in the limelight a lot, because they have a lot of responsibility, they freeze up a lot too. So what I say is that, what's your motivator? What is your motivator to show up powerfully and effectively and with confidence each and every time? For some of them, it was because I have to make my numbers, or I have to do this, or I have to pull the team together, or they have a motivator. We all have a motivator inside of us. Some of them may be smaller, some of them may be bigger. So the stronger and more vivid the motivator we have, whether it's your vision, whether it's your cause, whether it's your dream, or whether it's making that big sale or that proposal, that needs to be in the forefront of why you would choose to do this, why you would choose to practice this, why you choose to be better at this. You have to know what your own motivator is. And that's why I put that 2 little slides there of what's your dream. What is it? And it doesn't have to be this big, huge dream. It can be a small dream, like, I need to finish and get my degree. Okay, so what is the best way to get there? Other than studying and everything, you need to show up powerfully and confidently, because once you get that degree, what are you going to do with it? So the motivator is really beyond the degree. It's beyond what you want to do with it, what impact you want to make, all of that. So I recommend everyone know what their motivator is and keep that in the forefront and let that drive you, push you, whatever, get you up out of bed, whatever that is, have that in the forefront, because it's practice, 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 and you will get there. You will. I've seen it like thousands and thousands of times with my clients who started out not knowing that they could do anything and having the huge successes that they wanted most in their life. And no one was more surprised than them.
I really like what you said about knowing their motivator. It's also something that's out there in leadership training about understanding your why.
Yes.
So why is it that you do what you do? And
Yes.
understanding the why for showing up to work every day. What is it what passion of yours is being fed? So when you
Absolutely.
when you get to that why, then it makes it easier to see the how.
Yes. Yes, that's absolutely right. And one of the things that leaders have is being able to get everyone on the same page of the why. If they have a team, they have a goal, is why are we doing this? Why do we exist? What's the cause? I mean, you can look at the benefits and the effects and all of that, but yes, absolutely you're right, Catherine. And as we know, most of the great leaders are highly confident. If not, they're not as successful. So it is about how they want to show up and their various roles in what they're dealing with, all of that.
Mahalo, I have to go to another meeting, but I've got so much out of it today, Sylvia. I look forward to going through the slides and re-looking at the recording. Aloha.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So if there
Other
are no other
questions from anyone? All right. Well, thank you all for coming today. As a reminder, please take a few minutes to fill out our short survey online, which helps with our grant funding for this free series. You can find that link in the chat box. And if you'd all join me in at least silently or energetically giving Sylvia a wonderful mahalo for such a wonderful presentation. We really appreciate having her teach for us. And she's also giving a professional development series with ikahi. So every month she is putting on a new workshop. So feel free to look into that a little bit. We are on Eventbrite, and you can also find more information through our website. So thank you, everyone. Again, I will send that email out for the slides as well as handouts and that survey link. But mahalo, and we hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thanks for showing up. Aloha.